This beats a 529 plan. In this episode, we are going to answer the question, what is the best way to save for kids' college? I'm Doug Andrew. Put on your seatbelt. Don't ever think of a 529. Do something far better. So I'm Doug Andrew, and if this is your first time viewing an educational episode, welcome. If you've seen others, welcome back. You probably know, if you have seen other educational videos, that I'm very passionate about helping people see opportunities that maybe they didn't know existed before. And I've trained many financial advisors and CPAs and tax attorneys. And a lot of people get convinced to save for their children's college by using the government 529 plan. So let me explain that first and show you why there's something far better. Whenever you see numbers in a plan like 401k or 457 or 403B, or this 529 plan, these are sections of the Internal Revenue Code that allow for some type of tax-advantaged savings that you have to comply with in the Internal Revenue Code in order to get the tax advantages. And so they all come with strings attached. Even a Roth IRA or 401k is a qualified plan that has limits. So the 529 plan was created for families, parents who wanted to save for their children's college education, or maybe the children were contributing to it, which is a good idea. Now, if you watch some of my other episodes, I'm not a big proponent of just paying for all of your kids' college education. In our family, we require skin in the game, and so simply put, in our family bank, if any of our children or grandchildren need help with college, they have to go out and work hard, get scholarships, save money, and maybe for every dollar they save or get in a scholarship, we might match dollar for dollar up to one PhD. But we want them to earn their way through college. I worked at Kentucky Fried Chicken 30 hours a week when I was in school. I got scholarships, grants, and loans. I never expected my parents to pay. My wife, same thing. She worked at a bookstore 30 hours a week. Some of our friends whose parents just shelled it out, we saw them goofing off and everything. They just felt like they were entitled. Their parents owed them a college education. And they sort of carry that entitlement mentality after graduation. Oh, now the world owes me a living. I didn't want that entitlement mindset. Now, for money that we did set aside for long-term goals for education in our family bank, I never, ever considered a 529 plan because a 529 has strings attached. It's sort of like a Roth. Now, you usually set aside after-tax money, but it grows tax-free. So that's an advantage, just like a Roth. It grows tax-free, and then when you go to take money out for your children's college tuition, it has to be for certain college expenses, and there's a list of it in Section 529, then you don't have to pay tax on the money you made. You put in after-tax dollars. So you paid tax on the seed money, you're enjoying the harvest without tax, sort of like a Roth. The problem is, just like a Roth, there's too many strings attached. You can only set aside a certain amount each year. It's not very much. There's limits to how much you can put in and how you access it. If you touch it before the college age, there's a penalty and so forth. I don't like any of those strings attached. So people say, well, what's better? Well, hands down, my dream solution for several goals is a max-funded, tax-advantaged insurance contract. I prefer an indexed universal life insurance contract, and I call it the Laser Fund. So there's other episodes here that you can watch to understand how this works, but let me tell you for college funding how this would work better than a 529 plan. So when I set aside money that's earmarked for my children or grandchildren's college education funding, if I put it into a max-funded, tax-advantaged insurance contract, and I prefer the indexed universal life, in other episodes I illustrate, and in my books, how I have averaged over 10% rate of return net cash on my indexed universal life contracts. I maximum fund them. So let's just assume we are doing that here. And frankly, most 529 plans where people invest it, they don't earn 10%. So I earn a better rate of return, but it's tax-free also. I fund it with after-tax dollars. I can keep my tax deductions other ways with my real estate and so forth. So I actually indirectly fund my dream solution for retirement or college funding or business with 100-cent tax advantage dollars on the seed money, but I do it by getting deductions indirectly. Otherwise, you're funding it with after-tax money, but it's growing tax-free and it's earning a great rate of return and it's tax-free when you take it out. But what else is the difference? Well, sometimes I have seen many parents or grandparents saving for their children or grandchildren's college, and they pass away. They have a stroke. They check out earlier than they thought. So they don't have the wherewithal to keep funding that. The reason why I like the laser fund is because it blossoms instantly in value and transfers tax-free. So for my children, I put money in a laser fund, and if I would have died, every 100,000 that I saved in there, if I died, would blossom to at least 250,000 instantly if I died and transfer tax-free. In other words, it was self-funding in case I didn't stay around. Now, I did stay around. So if I live and it grows at 10%, it's going to be a bigger nest egg. I can put in more money. There's not limits. Oh, you can only put in $2,000 a year. You can only put in this much. You can't touch it. If I need to, I can take money out. I can borrow it out at 5% and keep earning 10. I can use it for all kinds of other purposes. It's not just used only for college. But if I earmark it for that, I'm earning a better rate of return. It's still tax-free. I can throw in some years $20,000, $50,000 if I wanted to. You can't do that in a 529. If all of a sudden I put in 50 grand and I need 40,000 back, I can take it back out 4 days later. You can't do that with a 529 without incurring penalties and paying tax. And when I ultimately pass away, sooner or later, it blossoms and transfers tax-free. But here's the kicker. When my kids did need some help and I might match them dollar for dollar on a semester abroad in Israel or Egypt or New Zealand, which many of my kids went on, I was able to, instead of withdrawing money out of the laser fund and just paying for the fee or the tuition, I borrowed. So if I have 200,000, if I have 500,000, it doesn't matter what's in the fund. Instead of withdrawing money, I borrow it at usually 5% interest, and the insurance company keeps crediting me the indexed rate. I have borrowed at 5 and they keep paying me 10. How much more is 10 than 5? 100% more. If I had $1 million and I pulled out $1 million out of that fund, they charged me $50,000, but they credit me $100,000. I made $50,000 while I was paying for their college. There have been years, like 2017, where we had clients borrowing money for college funding at 5% out of their laser funds, and they kept earning 25 that year. They were netting 20% on their money in the insurance contract while they were using the money to pay for college. Do you see why that knocks the socks off of any 529 plan? You can put in more money. You can take it out without penalties. When you die, it blossoms. You can borrow it out and keep earning interest on the money while you're funding your kids' and grandkids' college. That's why it'll knock the socks off of a 529, and it's the dream solution for college funding as well as many other things. So I would strongly recommend you watch this episode and understand the basics behind this in the Internal Revenue Code, why it's tax-free, why it's so flexible. And in that episode, you'll be given the opportunity to receive free a copy of my most recent best-selling book, The Laser Fund, over 300 pages of charts, graphs, explanations, but also 62 actual stories of how the Laser Fund is a dream solution for things like college funding for your kids.